Hey, dead ball dancing. Just about 90 seconds late, and for that I apologize. Justin, I went to the spreadsheet just 3 minutes out just to make sure there wasn't anything I was forgetting, and I saw the absolute bullshit you were planning to talk about today. So I had to go and pour a nice big glass of rye bourbon just to get me through.
Didn't you lose the bet? I don't think you're allowed to have bourbon.
But for how long? How long was that for?
I don't know if we specified a time range. Whenever I feel like you're allowed to have it again.
I thought it was whiskey.
It was whiskey, you're right. Yeah, it was whiskey.
And this is a rye. So.
Okay, fair.
We'll score up on that if we need to. How you doing, bud?
It's a bummer that you think that facts are BS, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Oh man, yeah. If you're new to the show, this is a bad one. Go watch one of the older ones and come back to this. This is not going to be a great starting spot. However, I think we've got a good one today.
Oh yeah. A lot of bad losses this week. It felt like a lot of teams looked like crud, and I think some of the middling teams look pretty good in my opinion. So, you want to jump into it, or do you want me to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could start right there. We've been talking about how when we get to conference play, we're gonna see some of these chalkier teams come back down to earth, and some of these low mid-level teams in conferences come up.
Yep.
Did you see Rhode Island's coach?
No, I didn't. I saw that in your comments too. What happened?
Man, so dude spends too much time on Twitter. So somebody made a joke on Twitter about ESPN's SEC bias and how bad it is, and how can they spend so much time looking at this conference when they're only 54-54 since January 4th? Okay, cool. Joke went right over Archie Miller's head. Really good Rhode Island team this year, but they ask him, they're like, how do you keep it up for conference season? And he's like, well, every conference is hard to play in. I saw somebody put out that the SEC was only 54-54 since the beginning of conference play. And then went in to explain how they needed to keep their nose to the grindstone and work hard. And it's like, dude, where are your staffers? Where are the people who are supposed to keep you from saying stupid shit? And just for our listeners, you have to have equal numbers of wins and losses in conference play.
It's just math.
Play each other.
It's just math. They're going to end the season 100 and something and 100 and something.
If you're worse than 500 as a conference, something went wrong.
You slid another non-con game in there somewhere or something.
So, but the point remains is that someone has to win and someone has to lose, and we're seeing some of that separation. But in some other cases, we're seeing everything kind of jam together, and I'm here for it. It makes some good narrative.
It sure is, and I'm gonna stick with kind of how we started the show with the middling teams and the SEC, kind of combine a little bit of both, right? I spoke about Vanderbilt last week a little bit, and how about 2 ranked wins in their last 3 games, knocking off number 8 Tennessee and number 12 Kentucky. They lost to Alabama by I think 11, but Alabama, in my opinion, is probably a top 3 team in the country. And man, did they look impressive. I spoke really quickly last week about how in the entire country, they're number 5th in turnover margin at +6 per game. I mean, they're turning teams over at a high clip, and they themselves aren't turning teams over. Listen to this, man. Against Kentucky, they forced them to turn the ball over 17 times to 11 assists, and Vanderbilt themselves had 21 assists to 5 turnovers. That is a incredibly balanced team. Jerry Stackhouse, I had no idea was the coach, honestly. Call me a casual. I had zero idea. And man, he's got them boys really, really playing. They're now 31st in the country in assist to turnover ratio and are top 12 in turnovers forced per game, just purely because they absolutely dominated Kentucky. They only won the game by 5, but man, what an impressive win. I mean, that's why I had Kentucky slide down to 24 on my top 25. They looked really, really impressive, man. Their starters shot 40% from 3-point range. 9 guys got over 17 minutes a game. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about, the top 25, but the reason why I want to highlight them is I actually have them at number 17 in mine. And in AP, they actually cracked into the top 25 for the first time since 2017. So just really impressive performance on their behalf. And man, if they keep it up, they got Oklahoma, Florida, and Texas in the next 3 games. We could see them take, Texas or Mizzou's spot in the next, next week or so. So I just want to start kind of combining the SEC and middling team that we have, because they look
and to back the middling thing, you just talked about how good Vanderbilt's looked. They are 7th in the SEC.
Yeah.
And so like we have this superpower conference we've been talking about all year, and a team like Vandy is not a team we've really talked about. And now here they are knocking off some big wins and already very well in the conversation for March. I mean, they're in position. All they got to do is win their games and they're there. So the SEC and the Big Ten for me are kind of these big ones we've been talking about, and they keep slipping. I don't know who's good in the Big Ten. Our rankings are our rankings, and you can see the teams there. Michigan State and Purdue at 10 and 11.
Yep.
And then there's this mess on the back half of our top 25 that's really mirrors the rest of this Big Ten conference, because outside of Rutgers, who I'll get to today, and like Penn State, Washington, Nebraska, like everyone's good.
Yeah.
Like there's legitimately 12 to 14 good teams in the Big Ten. And the wins have to come somewhere, right? So we'll see the same thing. There's gonna be a team that gets hot. Maybe Indiana knocks off a couple ranked teams, and in the grand scheme of things, it's meaningless. But for the teams that they beat, like it's really gonna make a difference. It's the difference between a 1 line or a 2 line, and getting a really tough draw as a 4 or 5.
Right, and you don't want to be a 3, 4, or 5 this year with how good some of these mid majors are playing. And I know you got one on the board. We'll talk about in a little bit. Like, you got to be real careful, and you got to avoid these bad losses. And one of the themes that I'm going to talk about in our top 25 today is trends, right? Like this time of year, you want to be trending upwards. Like obviously everyone does, but the good teams really rise to the top, in my opinion, this time of year. And you just mentioned the Big Ten, and I just want to call out one team that continues to slide on our top 25, and that's Illinois. Is there a more inconsistent team in the nation, Rick, before I get into my spiel, other than maybe Kentucky, Gonzaga, and UCLA, right, that has been more inconsistent than Illinois, in your opinion?
Probably not.
It's
especially not with the profile.
Right. So they lost to USC, crap team, by 10, beat Indiana by 25, lost to Michigan State by 2, lost to Maryland, great team, by 21, and it's skated by Northwestern by 9. And in my opinion, like, it's actually a miracle that they're still in our top 25. Like another loss like that, and I think both KP and us will take them out. You look at their stats, and this is where I get really confused about the inconsistency displayed by the bottom half of the Big Ten, right? And it's like they're 6th in scoring offense in 85 points a game, right? But since the start of Big Ten, they've dropped from 90 points a game, which was 2nd in the country, to 85th, which is now, again, 6th in the country, right? Prior to Big Ten play, right? Top 50 in field goal percentage. They're now 197th in the nation in field goal percentage at 44%. Out of their Big Ten games, 10 times out of the 10 Big Ten games, 8 times they've shot sub 43% from the field. They've lost 4 of those. Turnovers are skyrocketing. They now rank 164th in the country in turnovers, averaging 12 a game. And they don't share the ball well either. They're at 146th in the country in assists. They're 118th in committed fouls. Like they're going such the opposite direction, both offensively and defensively. They really concern me. And it almost feels like the bottom half of the Big Ten is falling out from underneath us, right? Like there's no good teams left with the exception of Michigan State, Purdue, and maybe Maryland, right? And if you're 314th in the country like Illinois is in forced turnovers a game, not applying any defensive pressure, you're going to lose to bad teams like a Northwestern when they have to play them again, or, a UCLA. So I just wanted to call them out because I don't think they're done sliding for us. They've been super disappointing.
Yeah, and they've looked really, really bad at times. They really play to their opponents. And, if you look at the Northwestern win, you said they skated by. They didn't really skate by. They got their wheels blown off in the second half.
Yep.
And you start to see a pattern. Michigan State dominated the second half of that game. Only outscored them by 2, but controlled the clock and the pacing the entire way. USC blew them out in the second half. Penn State, a team they beat by 40. Illinois let them get back in the game in the second half. Indiana played hard in the second half. They almost lost to Washington. Washington outscored them by 15 in the second half. It's like that. I'm afraid that they don't know how to close. And very selfishly, the last time they showed up in a second half was the friggin' Badgers game.
Yeah.
It's like, well, where was this craptastic Illinois second half defense when I needed it? And I'm looking at their schedule, and Nebraska's a team that's popped up a couple times, and Ohio State's a team we've talked about a lot. And then Rutgers isn't going to beat them. But if you go 2-1 in those 3 games, that's a failure. That's an absolute failure for who Illinois is supposed to be, because they should be in the conversation with Michigan State and Purdue as the 3 teams who can win this conference. And they're just showing week in and week out that they're not that team.
I couldn't agree with you more. And just to round out what you just said too, like, I think the reason why they're skating by, whether because they're letting teams back into the game in the second half, is because they're 16th in the country and made free throws a game. They're making 18. And I can't knock them too much because they are closing some of these games out, but you're going to go up against these buzzsaws like Purdue, like Michigan State, like Maryland, that just came in your building and smacked the ever-loving heck out of you, right? And it doesn't matter how many free throws you take a game or make a game, like, you're going to get smoked. And I'm worried about that Nebraska game in particular, because Nebraska has a very sound fundamental defensive scheme, and I don't think Illinois is ready for that. So really good conversation surrounding Illinois. I don't think they've done sliding.
Just checking out the top 25 here, making some general call outs. Obviously, big movement on Texas, Texas A&M, Marquette. Those are kind of the big movers. Illinois, we just talked about. Kentucky down. Mizzou, not Missouri. Maryland and Wisconsin back into the top 25 here. Relatively stable overall. Is there anything in like the 16 to 25 range you want to call out specifically?
Yeah, I had disrespected Texas previously, honestly, and I finally, I think you had a really good call earlier in the season, and I'm going to get one of my teams on notice where you also had a really good call. But I threw Texas back in, have them at 21. But I just they do some things that concern me, right? Like, great bounce back from a 24-point loss to Florida, right? But, they don't share the ball in offense, right? They're 216th in the country in assists per game, and offensively, you look at their stats and they're shooting the ball really well. Scoring offense, they're pretty decent. But the problem is, again, we talk about trends, and whether or not you're winning games, we still want to see you kind of round out your form, right? And they've scored 70 points or less 3 times out of the last 5 games and lost 2 of those 3. So to me, like, we talk about patterns and themes, and that to me is a theme. When Texas scores less than 70, they're in trouble. And against these tough defensive teams in the SEC, I'm very concerned about their offensive approach. Now, they're making me eat my words so far, so I will give them their credit. They have some really good wins, right? Texas A&M and Missouri, 2 really good wins. But the defensive and the rebounding side of the ball is very worrisome to me, because they're going to go up against length and athleticism like we see on our top 25 here. 212th in the country in rebounds, Rick. They're only getting 35 a game. Teams are going to eat you alive if you don't be aggressive on the glass, right? They're allowing 11 offensive rebounds a game, which is 273rd in the country, right? So aggression on the defensive boards, aggression on the offensive boards, it's just not there, right? And what I'm very, very worried about is that teams are exploiting them on the perimeter, which is what I think is going to catch up to them, right? They're allowing 34% from 3, which is 162nd in the country, right? Auburn can shoot 3s, right? Alabama can shoot 3s, right? Texas Tech, for some reason this year, can shoot 3s. Teams are going to put you in pick and roll. They're going to put you in motion offense, and they're going to exploit the ever-loving heck out of you. And one thing that I think is, just to round out the defensive side of the ball for them, is they're fouling 17 times a game. Like, you're putting a team in the double bonus, like one of the halves. I don't know which one it is. so they're 150 in the country, 150th in the country in fouls. So I like that they're up 7 spots. They deserve that for right now. But they got Ole Miss and LSU coming up, and LSU's not a pushover because they just beat Arkansas and tested Alabama. So they got to clean up that side of the ball, and then I think they're going to be okay. So let's just see what happens.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Texas this year. They're putting opponents in the double bonus in the second half.
It's not the half you want to do it in, right? Like it's
yeah. I'm gonna pre-eat some crow here. I have Texas overranked. I have Texas at 9.
Yep.
They're gonna beat Ole Miss. They're gonna beat LSU. They're gonna curb stomp Arkansas, and then they're gonna lose to Vanderbilt, Alabama, Kentucky. And so if you follow the show at all, I've talked about kind of how I rank versus how some people traditionally rank.
Yep.
I have them at 9. I think next week they're going to still be a top 9-8 team for me. I expect them to go 3-0 before we film again.
Yep.
But there's a lot coming here for Texas. Texas is not a top 10 team for me in our final rankings. But I very much feel like Texas right now is a top 10 team. And the reason for that is because a lot of the things you mentioned hasn't burned them.
Yeah.
The only teams they've lost to are teams that they should have lost to. Tough game against Florida, tough game against Tennessee. I mean, if I'm looking at their schedule, the only bad loss they have is to UConn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can acknowledge nothing you said was untrue. Nothing you said is not going to cost Texas before the season is over. I just feel like it hasn't yet. And for me, that's more the hallmark of a good team than a warning flag for a bad team. It's like, here's all the things Texas does horribly.
Yeah.
And they're still winning games, right? But as soon as you stop winning games, that goes away. So for me, they're top 10 right now. And I think next week they're still top 10. But yes, all the things you said, yes. And so I don't think Texas is a top 20 team for me come March.
Yeah.
But right now I've really enjoyed watching them play, and I've really enjoyed watching them win games despite flaws that probably even casual fans can look at and say, like, well, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, right. And I'm the only thing that I'm worried about when we talk next week is they should beat Ole Miss. They should beat Ole Miss. But the things that I just described that they're bad at, that they rank really horribly at in the country, Ole Miss happens to be very good at. And it's just one of those games where it's a trap, right? We talk about trap games. And I'm just wondering if that side of the ball, the defense and rebounding is so piss poor, can they make it up on the offensive side? Can they hit more threes? Can they get to the line a little bit more, get Ole Miss in foul trouble? Maybe not, because Ole Miss is really good with defending without fouling. So it's going to be interesting to see that game. It's going to be one that I have my eyes on. And honestly, I would suggest we'll get to game of the week later. But if you watch one game this week other than our game of the week, go check out Texas Ole Miss. I think that's going to be a really, really good one.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Arizona time, 8 p.m. Central.
Yep.
Justin, do we have to do this? I got tabs open. I'd like to close. Do we have to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
All right.
Let me
set the stage. Let me set the stage as a moderator.
You should be watching. So
I had a conversation with him today. I think I can adequately articulate his points, but let me start it as a moderator.
Yeah.
Dear audience, there are 2 great basketball teams in this country who are not blue bloods, but they control hearts and minds, and they exist in a space with the good teams in the country. They go to the tournament. ESPN gives them time. CBS gives them time. And the question that generations of Americans have asked themselves, who is the better all-time basketball program? Is it the Purdue Boilermakers or the Gonzaga Bulldogs?
Yep.
Justin, please give us your argument for Purdue, not against Gonzaga, for Purdue.
Can I combine them both? I'm not even going to talk crap. I didn't do any research.
This is how debates work. You give your argument for Purdue. I'll give Mike's argument for Gonzaga, and then we'll have a rebuttal period.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So more tested in a exponentially tougher conference and exponentially tougher non-conference schedule with the same amount of national championships that Gonzaga has since the year, whatever Mike said, 2017, in which he started his argument. They've had to play their starters more minutes because they don't get to play California School for the Blind. They've had lower seeds, which meant, honestly, tougher opponents. So it's, to me, sorry, Mike's over here. Get on the YouTube chat. It's not an apples for apples comparison because the weakness of the conference that the other team is in does not stand up to the strength of the Big Ten historically, even if you just put Purdue to the side. That's all.
Okay, so Gonzaga, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, have only played 74 seasons of college basketball.
Okay.
They have won their regular season conference championship 28 times.
Fair. Out of 74 seasons.
They have won their tournament championship 21 times. They've gone to 26 NCAA tournaments. They have 2 Final Fours.
Awesome. Good team.
Gonzaga, over the last 15 years, has more wins than any college basketball team.
Fair.
They have 3 seasons more wins, and I'm right on the edge of my rule here.
Yeah,
they have 3 seasons more wins than the closest Big Ten team.
Fair.
And that's Oregon.
Fair. I think I'm understanding the argument. I think, yeah.
With a smaller sample size, Gonzaga has done more at a similar winning percentage clip, albeit in a weaker conference.
Yeah.
But has a better tournament record.
Fair.
Than almost anyone in existence.
Fair.
And has a better regular season record.
Fair.
Than anyone.
Yep.
Justin, the floor is yours to rebut or support.
Everything that you said makes perfect sense. And I would expect their winning percentage, regardless of my fandom for Purdue, to be higher than Purdue, regardless of how you compare it, because they don't play anybody. They don't play anybody. Like, I can't make the comparison between the two teams because, in my opinion, Rick, and let me know if I'm off base with this, if you would have taken Gonzaga and you would have put them in the Big Ten and had them play a realistic blue blood non-conference schedule like Purdue and a lot of the Big Ten teams have to do, I wonder if the statistics would look the same as they do if playing in the WAC or the WCC or what, I keep forgetting the name of it, right? So
WCC. Yeah,
thank you. So my argument is you can't make an argument because they have the same amount of national championships, right? Regardless of appearances, and one of them cakewalks through their conference because they play USF, right? Or University of San Francisco. I would love to have Gonzaga play in the Big Ten for 1 year and see where they end up in both the regular season conference and the conference tournament.
I think that'd be a really fun thought experiment. In my time for a rebuttal here, I have extinguished my Gonzaga knowledge. So what I want to say is that I would take St. Mary's, Gonzaga, San Francisco, and the scraps of the Pac-12, right? Which is kind of cheating, but counts this year, right? So Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah.
I would take those teams in basketball on a neutral court today over Washington, Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, and Indiana.
I would take Gonzaga and Washington State over the teams that you just mentioned. But the remainder of those teams get dog walked, because you look at USF and they're like 7-2 in conference or something like that. Have a killer record this year.
Feed me USF and Rutgers. Feed it to me, because I want 30 seconds from now, I'm going to talk more about Rutgers. Feed me shitty teams against good Big Ten teams. I've had enough of this shit where we just give these teams passes. So I understand what you're saying. Yes, the drop off in the Western is crazy, right? West Coast. See, I'm doing it too. The West Coast Conference. The drop off is insane.
Yep.
So the point I wanted to lean into is that the bottom of the Big Ten is also not good.
Fair. Also fair. But imagine Gonzaga having to play Purdue, Illinois, who does suck this year, Michigan State, Maryland. There's a couple ones that I'm missing. Penn State, even, screw it, twice a year. No shot. Like, there's no chance.
They wiped the floor with Penn State.
Gonzaga would?
Yeah. Penn State's football team couldn't beat Gonzaga at basketball.
I'm going to find a way for AI to run a model. There has to be answers to this, because
they got that new AI, that China AI.
I'm not letting
Deep Seat or whatever it is.
You guys are both delusional, especially Mike, but you less so.
Whoa, this is not my argument. Okay, I am so wrapped up in trying to justify Wisconsin as a top 25 team. I am not advocating for Gonzaga. I am representing an argument. Dear viewers, let us know in the comments if Gonzaga or Purdue is the better all-time team, which was the original argument. Purdue would beat the hell out of Gonzaga this year. No question.
Yeah, that'd be.
But that is not the debate. Who is the better all-time college basketball team, Purdue or Gonzaga?
Consider strength of schedule in your comments. Consider strength of conference.
If you're not allowed to stand outside the ballot and try to sway people's art, I think that's actually against the law.
I can do whatever I want, honestly. I love the argument.
I'll splash Mike up on the screen here, saying, even if you come from a weak conference, if you do well in the tournament, you throw out the weak conference, right? Sure, you got in. You got a free pass to get in.
Yeah, fair.
But Gonzaga has played really, really well in tournament.
Yeah, but if you don't have to burn your starters for 35 minutes a game because you're in a fairy tale conference, then why wouldn't you grab an easier seat? No, seriously, Rick, right?
Like, I should have known. I should have known that you were going to do that.
And on top of that, listen. How do you define success in March Madness? Has Purdue or Gonzaga won a national championship recently?
Gonzaga has more wins in the tournament.
Okay, who has more national championships? I'm pretty sure Purdue has one. I would assume.
Nope, 0-0.
All right, so they both are unsuccessful in March Madness. So what's success? Don't get me fired up. Good comment.
That's a fair argument. Yeah, I'm trying to find these guys' minutes per game because.
Well, you can't use this year as a proxy, Rick.
What year? What year do you want me to use?
Anything before they decided to play real teams this year.
Okay, so last year we can look at last year. Is that fair?
Yep, perfect.
I don't know the answer here, and I hate that I'm invested in this now.
I want to look at their schedule.
Gonzaga had 3 players average more than 30 minutes a game last year. 2 of them averaged more than 35. They had 3 players off the bench with more. Well, no, 2 off the bench, 1 starter with more than 23. So they had 6 players with 23 or more minutes per game, 3 with 30 or more, 2 with 35 or more.
Okay, so not a valid argument then. I'll take that one back. But again, I'm still going to lean on strength of conference, strength of schedule. I don't think they've had the schedule they had last year, this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but like they're having to play the Big 12. West Virginia got them, right? They're having to play the SEC. Kentucky got them. UConn got them, right? Like Arizona State almost got them. UCLA got them. Santa Clara, Oregon State. Like, I don't know.
I'm just over here trying to reassure myself that Wisconsin is actually better than St. Mary's, and I want to move on. I would like to move on.
Well, I like the argument, Mike. Let's do another one next week. I really like that. I really, really like that. That's awesome.
Mike, should come on the show so I can take a night off and you guys can argue about Gonzaga for 45 minutes.
I would love that. He's just going to talk about BYU for, an hour. So,
all right. Teams on notice. I'm going to start my mid-major of the year from our preseason show here. VCU. Wanted to revisit them, not just because great call by me, but also because they're playing great ball.
Yep.
16-4 overall, 6-1 in the A10, and the A10 is not looking like we thought it would.
Nope.
This is wide open. Dayton does not look like a team that can beat VCU.
Yeah, fizzled out.
Give me the Rams to go dancing.
Yep.
And give me them to win a game in the tournament. This team is number 35 in KenPom.
Yep.
KenPom's luck factor is a little squirrely sometimes, but this team is 345th in luck, which means the VCU is as good as they are, and every single factor that goes into winning or losing from a statistical standpoint, they suck at. Their luck is awful. If you get any regression on that and playing a weakened A10, I like VCU to win the A10 regular season, the A10 tournament, and to win a game in March.
I mean, if they keep winning at this clip, you're not looking at them as a squeak in. You're looking at them as a 5, 6, I think. Great call by you. Bummed to see Dayton fizzle out. I really hope they turn around and figure it out. But they look like they should easily coast through that.
Well, and the nice thing about Dayton is if they're a top 100 team in the country, they're playing the play-in game in Dayton. Like, they won't be 100, they'll be 68, and they're in.
Right.
That was the deal that they made with the devil that is the NCAA. Is like, if they're in the top 100, they're number 68, and they'll be playing a home game at Dayton. So,
is that a real thing?
Which part of that? The home game is at Dayton. The play-in game is always at Dayton. I'm not sure why, but no, they didn't act well. There's no public deal with the devil.
I was like, oh my God, bro, that's a wild thing you could do. My goodness. Okay.
It's gonna happen. But the game is in Dayton. That part is fact.
I hope they figure it out because I think they got a really talented team. But again, VCU is far and away the best team in that conference, and they don't look like, pardon me, they're slowing down.
And if you've never been, Richmond, Virginia, not only some of the best food in the whole state.
Interesting.
Very walkable city.
Okay.
VCU is right downtown, and the VCU girls are to die for. Die for.
Nope. I don't be doing. Yeah, I'm not worried about none of that.
Hit me up. Slide my DMs at King of Lakemore. Mostly on Blue Sky now. Well, I'll tell you where to go.
This is where you guys know I am the basketball guy, and he is the other guy. Right. This is why he has me on the show.
It's bachelor season, man. I'm all about hooking people up.
Don't slide in his DMs, please.
The Rose League. If you don't play Fantasy Bachelor on the Rose League, what kind of fan are you?
True. It's been popping off too. So I'm going to start with Texas Tech. This team's scary. Another call by you early in the season. Really like that they're kind of rounding in form. They look eerily familiar to the Texas Tech team that went to the national championship, albeit lost, but went to the national championship. Defensively, KenPom has them ranked, I believe, at 17th. Fact check me, that might have changed slightly. They're 33rd in the country in scoring defense, only allowing
11.
So they went up. Good. They are a monster on defense. They've held teams to sub 65 points 12 out of their 20 games. That is absurd. That is an unbelievable defensive team. Field goal defense is a bit to be desired. They're 78th in the country and 108th in threes. But overall, and this is where you're just starting to see that 11th ranked in KenPom come into play, right? Teams have shot sub 39% 8 times out of their 20 games and sub 41% 12 times out of their 20 games. They're absurd on the defensive side of the ball, which we know Texas Tech has always been good at. Why they remind me of their national championship run team is because they've figured it out on the offensive side of the ball. Unlike Texas A&M, right? 35th in scoring offense, 19th in the country in field goal percentage, 17th in three-point percentage, and 32nd in free throw percentage. That is absurd. They are so incredibly well balanced It's unbelievable. They've shot above 50% from the field in half their games year to date, and above 45% from three in 6 of their games. It's watching them play is masterful on offense. They don't stand, they don't ISO, and this is why I like them moving forward. They got TCU tomorrow, which should be an easy beatdown, and then they have probably their second toughest test of the season against Houston, which that's going to be a barn burner. Dude, they're 22nd in the nation in assists per game. Half their games year to date, they're over 17 assists a game. They're sharing the ball. They take care of it well. Their assist to turnover ratio is 19th best in the country. This team has completely rounded into form and really honestly shocked me because I was really low on them early in the season. And since then, I have moved them all the way up to the 9th spot on my rankings. And they probably deserve a little bit better than that, given the lackluster performances by Tennessee and Florida. Watch out for this team. They are scary, and they are incredibly well-rounded.
Yeah, Tech's been hanging out around our top 10, top 15 for most of the year.
Yep.
Ken Palm obviously loves them.
Yep.
I have them at the 10 spot in my rankings. Then they're fun to watch, right? And that's something I don't want to lose sight of as we get in. I mean, we've done this is episode 13.
13. Yep.
We are now more qualified to talk to you about college basketball than half the idiots you watch on ESPN. So the one thing I want to not lose track of, dear viewers, is that we like to watch basketball.
Yep.
And Texas Tech is fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, give me the style points.
Yep.
They'll sit at 10 for me over, I think I dropped A&M, but I had them and A&M close, but I had them up because they're more fun to watch than A&M is.
And they're just more well balanced. And you bring up a really good point. Have fun watching basketball, and they look like they're having fun. They're playing like they're having fun, and they're winning basketball games. I mean, they've rattled off. How many wins do they have in a row now? 6-1 in their last 7 games, with their loss coming to Iowa State, and Iowa State's a perennial top 3 team for us. So, scary team, man. They're gonna be a problem, a real problem.
There's no reason to watch basketball and not have fun doing it.
Great.
Unless you're an NBA fan, in which case, boy, do I have some shitty basketball for you. My second team I noticed this week is Rutgers.
Yep.
Now, let me take a step back, because not everyone who watches this show is a basketball expert.
Yep.
So let me tell you what the basketball experts were saying about this Rutgers team, right?
Yes.
2 NBA first-round picks, one and dones in their draft class.
Yep.
10-10. Let me tell you about these NBA picks. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper can go to the NBA.
Tell me.
As a quick stopover right on the road to hell, because they belong in that soft-ass league. I hate the NBA.
I just say it. Yeah.
It's a joke. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper belong in the NBA. I hope they make a ton of money. I hope they're successful. I hope their families are successful. I don't want any ill will from their fans or their people in my DMs. They're atrociously bad basketball players who will excel in the NBA.
Yep. Agreed.
They suck.
Yep.
They have 4.6 total win shares in 20 games.
Explain what win shares.
Win share is essentially all of your offensive and defensive contributions. How many wins are you responsible for your team? This is 2 NBA players, right? NBA players should be able to come into college basketball and just dominate, just lay waste.
Yep.
They suck.
Yep.
They're both shooting under 70% from the free throw line, and I've ranted on this show about free throws before. Unacceptable. 7 out of 10? You want to go to the NBA?
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
My dad doesn't like it either.
This Rutgers team is 201st in field goal percentage. They're 249th in free throw percentage. You know who you have to blame for that? 2 first-round NBA players.
Yep.
They're both guards, by the way. 253rd in assists, 234th in steals. So, Justin, I ask you, you're the basketball guy. I'm the commentary, right?
Yep.
If you don't shoot free throws, if you don't shoot twos, if you don't assist, if you don't steal, are you a guard or are you a waste of space?
Second option.
So, Rutgers is why we can have a serious conversation about is the bottom of the West Coast Conference better than the bottom of the Big Ten? Because these one and done players are an atrocity. It's an embarrassment to the sport.
Yeah.
I understand they're just going to the NBA. They're just going to do their thing. They're going to get 35 minutes. They're going to score 20 points a game on 42% shooting, and they're going to get drafted. Cool. Is this what Rutgers wanted? Did Rutgers want to be the worst team in the Big Ten with 2 NBA players? Because it's going to work, right? That's the shittiest part. So they'll be like, look, we recruit so well and we put players in the NBA. And then the next 2 kids who want to be guards because it's easier to get drafted, but they actually are forwards who suck and are not tall enough, they're going to go to Rutgers. You're going to win 10 games. You're going to be the laughing stock of the Big Ten, and you're going to get drafted in the first round and make a shit ton of money. So I hate it because it cheapens the game.
Yep.
I hate it because the NBA has built a league that is pathetic.
Yep.
Rutgers is on notice for me because they are going to be under 500 this year for sure.
Yep.
And I'm just hoping and praying that Penn State can win enough games to be better than Rutgers, because I want as much embarrassment to heap on this team as possible. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, if by some stretch of the imagination you find this video, shame on you. Shame on you. It's pathetic. It's deplorable, and I hate it.
I want that whole thing clipped, and I want it put as the rant of the year. That is, but you know, and you know, you're not being too harsh, because there are other NBA first-round picks, whether it's Cooper Flagg on Duke, Walter Clayton Jr. on Florida, or Trey Johnson on Texas, that are affecting winning. So to your point, they're treating Rutgers like a jump-off pad where they can essentially stat pad to see how much money they're going to make in the NBA, right? You created a less talented G League is what the NBA has done. So your rant is completely worth it and not at all overzealous. So I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Jumping to another team that used to be a one-and-done expert is Kentucky. We sang their praises for all the great wins that they seem to string together in the past couple of weeks, and how disappointing have they been? First of all, they're not as good of a team as Vanderbilt. I'm ready to say that right now. Vanderbilt is a much more complete, well-rounded team, and I'm bummed that they're not on the rankings, which hopefully they will be soon. Lost 2 out of 3 to Alabama and Vanderbilt. That's a team they should beat. Right. Offensive side of the ball, I'm not even going to talk about it, because you look at their stats and you're like, oh my God, like they're the best team in the country. And offensively, you know, they're the 3rd best scoring offense, which is great. You know, they're 47th in threes. So, you know, they have a good offensive scheme. The ball doesn't get too stagnant. They move it around. My question for you is this the worst defensive team in a Power 4 conference? And before you answer, 293rd in scoring defense, 306th in turnovers forced per game, 212th in fouls per game, leading to 18 free throws a game for the other team, where the other team is shooting 264 for 374, which is 157th worst in the country.
81st on defense in Ken Palm. There's, I don't know, the Power 4 keeps shifting around. There's 75 teams in the Power 4.
Yep.
Throw in a couple big dogs from down low. And yes, I think the answer to your question, which you already knew, but a good setup. Yep. Yes, Kentucky is the worst defense in real college basketball.
It's a pathetic showing, right? And they're winning these games because they're scoring 106 versus Florida and 106 versus someone else, and good job, but you're that bad on defense, you're not going to win games. And they got Tennessee, I believe, tonight or tomorrow. Arkansas, I think they lose to Ole Miss. They got South Carolina, who just tested, I believe, Auburn and only lost by 2. And then they have Tennessee again. So think about this. They could lose against Tennessee. I think they'll beat Arkansas. They could lose against Ole Miss, and they're going to lose against Tennessee again. Like, they might go 2-3 in those 5 games.
Okay, so 2 and 3 would make them 16-8. Where in the AP poll is 16-8 Kentucky, and why is it in the top 15?
It's not, right? It's not. And I think after the loss to Vanderbilt, they should have been a little harsher to them, but they are on notice for me because conceivably out of those 4 games, the one that I can say with confidence that they will win will be Arkansas. I don't know about the rest. So
that Tennessee game starts in about 15 minutes. I might go watch that after this.
Yeah, absolutely. They're concerning, but
I gotta watch Top Chef though. We're bringing fantasy Top Chef, so I'm gonna watch an old episode of Top Chef so that I can figure out scoring.
And I know Steph's gonna want to get on fantasy Top Chef too because
important stuff, guys. Yeah. Important stuff.
Oh yeah. Should we do it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Game of the week time.
Oh, look at oh my God. Where did you find that one?
How about a little Florida, Tennessee, baby?
That is sweet.
This game is on the 1st of February. February's here, y'all. February's here. We are flying through 2025. So
lead us.
This game has some massive, massive implications for the SEC. I'm not sure which way I want to go with this. Do you have like a lean before we get into the like the real breakdown of it? Do you have like a lean for which way you think this might go?
I do, and it's going to be very unpopular. I'll say 2 things, and then we'll get to the stats. 1, whatever happened on January 7th where they won by 30 won't happen again. 2, we'll get into it, but it's just Florida's scaring me. They're trending the wrong way. And I think against a defensive monstrosity that's Tennessee that is figuring it out, could be problems. But I don't know about you. I'm going to say Tennessee.
The model's got Tennessee 3.5, and it's making me nervous.
Yeah,
Vegas won't open that small.
No.
I think this is probably Tennessee like 5.5.
Gotcha.
Having said that, I'm not entirely convinced that I lay the points.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you said, this is offense against defense, and 5.5 is a lot of points. So obviously, not a betting show necessarily, but I'll be waiting to see where Vegas comes in on this, and if it's more than 4.5, I'm probably popping that right away.
Yep.
But I think Tennessee wins this game.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think I'll jump into it first. Like, I think it's more about what Florida does wrong than what Tennessee does right. Walter Clayton Jr., I'm not going to steal your thunder. By the way, coolest name in basketball. Shout out Walt Abraham, watching the show. Love you, man. Phenomenal basketball player. The ball sticks. We talked about it earlier in the season. The ball sticks. Stop the ball. 83rd in the country in assists is not going to work against Tennessee anymore. It's not. They don't get downhill enough. They're 125th in free throw attempts, 128th in makes, and 190th in percent. They love the 3 ball. They fall in love with it too easily, which also Tennessee does as well. And I think against a Tennessee defense that has rounded into form, this could be problematic, right? Both teams are phenomenal at rebounding, but Tennessee is 2nd in field goal defense, right? 3rd in scoring defense, 1st in 3-point defense, 1st in the country in 3-point defense, and 20th in fouls per game. They're only fouling 14 times a game. Now, what concerns me about Tennessee, and the reason why I think they're vulnerable, is 45% of their shots are coming from 3-point range, Rick, and they rank 165th in the country in 3-point percentage. They've shot under 30% from 3 7 times and have lost 2 of those games, 2 out of the 3 losses. They're 157th in field goal percentage in the entire country. So what I'm banking on, what Tennessee does this game, is they stifle the ever-loving hell out of Florida, force the ball to stick, right? So you can double and triple team Clayton, right? Rotate out quick to the shooters in the corners, which they're obviously very good at. That's how I think Tennessee is going to win this game. If they fall in love with the 3, Florida runs away with this. If they play smart and they play efficiently, I think Tennessee by 7.
Well, and that's really, for me, it's Walter Clayton, right? It's who are you? Who are you? You're averaging 17 points and 4 assists.
Right.
Not only is that not working against the good teams for Florida, that's not NBA stats, right? And
no.
We beat the NBA thing to death, but like that's what he wants, right?
Of course.
He really doesn't want a Florida national championship. He's going to the NBA, right? This is the game, right? This is offense against defense. Show me who you are.
Yeah.
This is a player who is supposed to be player of the year candidate.
Yep, absolutely.
It's not there. 17 points a game is not player of the year.
Nope.
Especially because Florida hasn't played the hardest part of their schedule yet.
Sorry.
You did 17 against the teams you should have been scoring 30 against. And I understand Florida doesn't run their offense through him.
Right.
They do a really good job dispersing the ball. But these games against real teams, against good defenses, this is where your leaders need to take over. This is where your most skilled player needs to take over. So for me, this is a Walter Clayton game.
Yeah.
Show me. Show me. Show the country. If Walter Clayton can go for 25 points and 8 assists, the game flow that comes along with that means that Florida's up.
Yep.
Right? Tennessee is missing those threes. Florida is controlling clock and court in fast breaks.
Yep.
They're doing the things that they need to do to stop a Tennessee team that is not bad on offense, right? We talk about their defense because they are defensive juggernauts. It's not a bad offensive team, right? They do fall in love with the 3. They do take bad shots. They do things that you don't want from an offensive team, but they can fall back on the number 1 defense in the country. So for me, I'm going to look at the points, the scored, and Walter Clayton's stat line at halftime. And I can turn off the TV and tell you the score of this game. I can tell you what happens in this game because if Florida doesn't control the pace, if Florida doesn't set the tone and go into the half up 3, 4, 5 points, Clayton's at 10-3, they lose the game.
Yep.
They lose that game. They will not overcome Tennessee's second half defense, regardless of how Tennessee's shooting.
Yep.
If Tennessee is up at the half, they don't have to chase bad threes. They can play their game. They can pace. They can play defense on Walter Clayton. Their defense is better than Walter Clayton's offense.
Correct.
So for me, that's what I'm looking for. Show me the halftime score. Show me Walter Clayton's stat line. I will tell you the final score of the game. I know it's going to happen. I only need to watch 20 minutes of this. But ultimately, that's where it comes down to for me. This is offensive against defense, but it's not as clean cut as that. It is how much do you want it?
Yeah.
Because I think Florida is the better team.
They are.
But unless you can come out and execute as the better team, you're not the better team. Ranked 6 and 7 right now. If Florida loses this game in Tennessee, we're talking about 5 and 12.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
So for me, that's really what it comes down to. I want to see it. I want to see that halftime score. Show me that you belong, Walter Clayton, in that conversation. Yeah. All right, and all the rest of the pieces will fall in place. But I'm super excited to see if this is 39-30 Florida at the half. That's that second half I'm watching.
Yeah, agreed. And one X factor that I didn't realize too. Again, I'm still taking Tennessee. I do think they're more complete right now, and I think they, to your point, want it more. Right? How can Florida's defense show up? Because they've depicted that they can play defense pretty consistently for most of the year, and then they fall off and they have a really bad defensive game. They're 10th in field goal defense in the country. Are we going to see that version of Florida's defense? Or are we going to see the version of Florida's defense that gave up 106 to Kentucky, right? So I'm looking for that. If Tennessee has 30 or less at halftime, Tennessee's in trouble.
Well, and we're talking about like essentially the elite level of the sport, right?
Right.
Florida's defense, 15th in the country on KenPom. Like these are not like Tennessee's offense is the worst unit in this game. They're 34th on offense.
Yeah,
34th. Like that's 68 teams make the tournament, guys. Like
right.
Like we are talking about the upper crust here. So like these margins that we're talking about, these are both elite level teams. But it's how does that unit show up, right? Does Florida's number 12 defense hold up, right? Like, and for me, that's what makes this a game of the week. When you sent me that short list, I'm like, it's this one.
Yeah.
It's this one because we're not talking about like, oh, like can the 112th best defense buoy the 8th best offense? Like these are elite level teams.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to say, at least for me in my rankings, the kind of way I'm thinking about it, like these teams are fighting for second in the SEC behind Alabama.
Yeah. Well, Auburn, really.
Third in the SEC. I totally forgot about Auburn.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're talking about this upper crust. Like these two SEC teams that we have in our top 10 are probably top 5 teams in the country.
Yep.
And you get so compressed up there, and we can talk about it. We can talk about the mismatches, but it's like, okay, your favorite team's not going to beat Florida. And it's like we're talking about, sometimes Tennessee chases the 3. Well, they're going to blow out half of our viewers' favorite team by 30 chasing the 3.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's so cool to be able to feature a game like this and to be able to call out for our viewers like, this is a game, and here's exactly what you should watch on a play-by-play level. Because Florida, Tennessee, great game, ESPN, primetime, cool. But like,
here's why.
Watch for these little tiny things because this is a huge game.
Yep, agreed. And I want to see how many points off of turnovers and how many fast break points Tennessee has at the half. Because it's Tennessee's defense versus Florida's offense. If they get to turning them over, night.
Montana is the number 1 team in luck in the country in KenPom. I just accidentally clicked that. I thought I'd share that with the viewers and with you. Do you have anything else for this is episode 13. This is week 13 at college ball, guys.
I feel like the game's getting better. I feel like everything's getting tighter. These shows are so much fun, man. I love talking ball, and watch out for those mid guys. I say it every week. Watch out for the middle of the pack in every conference.
Creighton came on, man. Creighton came on.
Xavier.
We dismissed Creighton completely.
Xavier.
I'll say it. I don't know if he's still here. BYU
has someone
even in their losses.
Yep. They just blew someone out by like 40. I forgot who it was. They just smoked somebody. They're not going to be on notice for me. They're still not the best team in Utah either. Utah State is, but they look good. Good episode. Oh man.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, just want to thank you for joining us on Dead Ball Dancing. There's other stuff going on the channel. Coming out of NFL season here, coming into Bachelor season. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you like objectively critiquing women based on their looks and things they've said, maybe it is for you. You don't even necessarily have to watch.
We don't accept that behavior towards women.
Yeah, we don't condone that behavior, but I understand there might be some viewers who lean into that. Florida, Tennessee game of the week that will be on Chain Link, all lit up, all pretty. If you're not playing Chain Link yet,
please play it.
You really should. It is free.
A lot of fun.
It's probably the most fun you're gonna have because if you go on DraftKings, you're just gonna lose money, especially if you tail our picks. Our game of the week picks have not been great.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't.
So check out Chain Link. Check out the Rose Show for Fantasy Bachelor.
Yep.
And Justin doesn't even know this yet, but we have a couple new shows coming to this very channel. If you like to drink wine but don't know a whole lot about wine, that's on the way as well. So watch the show, the socials, watch the channel. We're going to get into more breakdown of what is on the way, but man, just a little bit of everything.
2 things for me. 1, please if you're not going to download Chainlink, please put your game of the week predictions in the comment section right now. My dad is the only one doing it, and he doesn't even know how to use YouTube. So please, like, my dad's better than you guys right now. Come on. Second, I believe we have a viewer watching. My good friend back home, John Mel, who is a wine connoisseur. So John, if you're interested, glad to connect you with Rick. You guys can have a great conversation surrounding wine, good selections.
Here's where I'd put it if this wasn't live. Club602.com/wine.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun. Again, in the comment section, game of the week picks, please.
Thanks for joining us on Dead Ball Dancing. It's crazy. There's been 13 weeks of this already.
Love it.
Thanks for riding with us. And we have a couple ideas banging around in our heads for some special episodes. So be on the lookout for that. We've been going a little bit longer over having a third segment. Right. So let us know what you think about that. We get no feedback. We don't get no feedback from anybody. So I don't know. I see the viewers dwindle as we get into more nonsense, but
we got 4. Still got 4. I appreciate you guys.
I don't know if it's necessarily indicative of them not liking our witty back and forth. I was going to try to say repartee. I nailed it. But just let us know what you want to see, because ultimately the show is nothing without the viewers.
Absolutely. And thank you guys again for tuning in. Heck of a week coming up. Again, watch out for that Ole Miss game too.
It started 3 minutes ago, so run to ESPN. Thanks for joining us, Dead Ball Dancing. We'll see you next week, guys.
Peace, y'all.